He's literally trying to give away free King Air 350s and nobody will take them. No way, are you kidding me? It still has all the surveillance equipment in here. Okay, that's it, we gotta buy this thing. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to JR Aviation and welcome to a video I promised I would make if you guys blew up the last video, and blew up the last video you guys did. 300,000 views? Are you guys kidding me? I guess I'm not the only one who loves the story of a cheap abandoned Gulfstream GIII. If you didn't see that video already, be sure to check it out when you're done with this one. It's a crazy story of how we nearly bought a Gulfstream GIII for the price of a Cessna 172. Anyway, as for today's video, I got another crazy story for you guys, so be sure to grab some popcorn, grab a drink, enjoy this full video, don't skip around, there's a lot to fill you guys in on, and this is a crazy story start to finish. And yes, of course, I have first-person clips of these planes when I went to go look at them. Yes, we are talking about two government spy planes, King Air 350s, that were flying over the Middle East, tracking down terrorists and promoting the US military agenda in Iraq and Afghanistan. Let's get into it. There's one more thing I have to mention before we get into the video. If you guys didn't know already, every 3 to 4 months, we give away one of our cars for free to a random follower. You don't have to buy anything. Nobody gives us a penny. We simply sign over the title to someone random. A computer generates the winner. That winner is going to be picked in 3 days. So if you haven't already entered free car giveaway number 4, this is the 4th one we've done, then you're gonna wanna go do that right now. Literally, as this video is playing, just pull up Instagram, search free car giveaways on Instagram. That's our car giveaway page. All you have to do is go to like the 4th most recent post, and right there, the 3 steps to enter. It's all free, nobody pays us a penny, and somebody's gonna get this car for free. It's our rare 2009 R3 Mazda RX-8 6-speed manual, one of very few. I think there's only 3 for sale in the entire country right now. If you want a really cool JDM car that revs to 9,000 RPMs for free, go join the giveaway, free car giveaways. That's it, we're all caught up to speed. Let's get into this video. Alrighty, where do we begin? So this story starts about 10 months ago. As you guys know, my brother and I are all about finding good deals on cars, on airplanes, or really anything else. If we can make money flipping it, we will probably try to buy it. So when the opportunity came up to buy 2 really cheap King Air 350s, our eyes lit up at the thought of it and we were immediately interested. So like I mentioned in the Gulfstream video, I keep an eye on every single online airplane auction, as well as all social media posts about cheap airplanes or airplanes that are gonna go up for foreclosure sale, government sale, criminal sale, I don't know, whatever it is. If I can get a cheap airplane that I can make some money on, again, I will entertain it. These planes, once again, were listed on auction at no reserve by the state of Arizona. So while these planes were indeed ex-military, like United States government planes, they were since donated, well not donated, they were sold to the state of Arizona for like $1, or they were given for free or something like that. Whatever the government military exchange program is to send like used surplus military equipment to like local governments. I forgot what that law is, maybe I'll put it up on the screen here. That was used for the state of Arizona to acquire these King Airs for free. So apparently they cost nothing for the state to get. I got the whole story. This is so juicy. So obviously with these planes being owned by the state of Arizona, they were indeed located in Arizona. Guess what? I'm also in Arizona, so it made it very convenient to go look at these airplanes. I found out about the sale 3 days prior to the auction. So literally within 2 days, I was arranging with the manager of the state assets or whatever to come preview these planes and make an account and getting ready to bid, all that stuff. I was getting all my ducks in a row so that come day 3, the day of the auction, I would be ready to bid on these things if I wanted to. And boy, did I want to, because these planes, when I found the auction, they were at like 20,000 bucks. So I was like, okay, this is a good sign. One other very interesting note when I found this auction, I'm not sure if this was a green flag or a red flag, was the fact that the listing said that these planes were scrap. Literally in the title of the listings, it says Beechcraft King Air scrap. And I'm like, okay, well, when I first found the listing, I just assumed that they were for parts and for scrap. And then when I started going through the pictures, I'm like, hold up, like these aren't scrap planes. All the parts are here. It's got engines, it's got props, it's got the avionics, it's got interior, all the wheels are there, the wings are there, everything's there. It's not like these were like picked apart and they're just like crumbs left over and they're for the junkyard. No, these were like complete planes. So when I saw them listed as scrap, I was like, okay, well, that right there is gonna make these planes sell for super cheap. Nobody's gonna wanna buy planes that are listed for scrap except this guy right here. Anyway, I made arrangements to go see these planes because you can only get so much information from the auction. I think they listed maybe the year of the airplanes, the time on the airplanes, and that's it. Like no other information. So I had nothing to go off of. I didn't know anything about these planes until I went down there Friday morning, day of the auction. Okay, so here's where it gets really juicy. So my brother and I woke up really early in the morning and we drove down to Sky Harbor Airport where they were being stored under these like T-shade things. They weren't even in a hangar. They've been sitting outside for what I learned was about 6 years. Pretty sure they like drained the oil out of the engines and then just parked them. So I was one of the first people to ever step foot inside of them in probably a very long time. I got down there and we pretty much were immediately escorted out to the planes. Again, as I'm going out to these planes, the auction ends about 3 hours later. So this was cutting it down to the wire, cutting it close, but the planes were still only at $75,000. And actually, before I even got down to the planes, I bid on them. I couldn't help myself, but I figured at 75 grand, I couldn't go wrong. Even if they were a huge steaming pile of doo-doo, they would at least be cool paperweights for $75,000. So I was high bidder on both of them before I even saw them in person. But it was also good to be high bidder because I told the person representing the planes that like, hey, I'm high bidder, like even though I'm a young kid, I'm not wasting your time. Look, I've already made an account. I'm bidding on them. I'm serious. So that gave a lot of credibility for him to share with me the whole story about the planes, which I'll kind of get into now as I start rolling some of these clips. So to the best of my knowledge, these planes started out life in 2004 as normal, luxurious King Airs, transporting passengers all across the country, not as the military King Air version that doesn't have an N number, is all like painted gray. You guys have seen them. They have a special code. I think it's like a UC12 or something like that. I'll put it up on the screen. This is the military King Air version. And the B350 is the passenger normal King Air. I'm pretty sure they started out as the normal King Air and then they were converted in maybe 2010, 2008. Kind of hard to figure out exactly. I only had about an hour to flip through 10 binders worth of logs. So bear with me, I'm close enough. They were converted into extremely advanced high-end military aircraft, decked out with the latest and greatest computer, camera, and surveillance technology available at the time. I kid you not, the camera that was mounted on these planes, I looked it up and it was, I believe, $2 million brand new. And guess what? These cameras came with the planes. They were still with the planes. And it wasn't just the cameras that were still on the planes. The interiors were still intact with the computers, the screens, all the racks of servers and hardware to operate the cameras. The whole setup where the camera operator would be with the chair was still there. It's almost like everything was just left when these planes were decommissioned and taken back home to the United States. Just imagine the story these planes could tell if they could talk. They spent years of their lives flying over the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan for many hours a day. One thing that I found that was really interesting is the fact that these planes are incredibly high time. One had 24,000 hours and I think one had like 26,000 hours on it. These planes were used. Normally, a plane of that time would probably have like 15 or 16,000 cycles. Even that might be pretty low because King Airs typically fly like what, 45 minutes or an hour long routes. So the cycles on King Airs are normally really high. But the cycles on these two aircraft were, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 cycles, which means these planes were flown on super long missions, multiple hours on end, just circling the city over and over and over again. I've seen some of the flight paths of these planes and all they do is just circle around, having their cameras pointing down on Mosul or Kabul or something like that. And that's all they do. So these things don't fly like 45-minute routes and then land, take off, land, take off, land, take off. They just take off in the morning and stay up there all day or however long they can with their fuel reserves. By the way, if you guys have any information on these planes in particular, or the surveillance King Airs that the military used, or maybe you were in the military in the Middle East and you remember these planes flying every day, then please be sure to drop a comment. I would love to hear more about these planes. I'm going based on what I know, and I'm sure there's people out there who know a whole lot more. I'm just sharing what is a really cool story. So let's keep going. So these planes flew for multiple years. Then in 2016, maybe late 2015, they were pulled, decommissioned. I don't know why, maybe because they were super high time airframes, they were upgrading, or they went with a different plane, or maybe drones took over, probably that. So once the planes were decommissioned, where did they go? Well, they flew them back to America. They flew them to Texas, actually, where I'm sure they did some demilitarization and kind of prepped them for the next chapter of their lives, which in this case was going to be Border Patrol in Arizona. So these planes were, like I said, given to the state of Arizona for free or $1 or whatever. And the state of Arizona was going to use them in their DPS, Department of Public Safety Division, to enforce our laws and limit criminal activity on the southern border. So that was the plan. I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. These planes were set up for surveillance. They have these extremely high power cameras. By the way, these cameras, you can be at like 15,000 feet, shoot this camera down off this King Air, and I swear to God, like see a license plate on a car. These cameras are so incredible. I mean, there's a reason they were like $2 million.
Westcam's MX-15 is a multi-sensor, multispectral imaging system that's ideal for medium-altitude covert intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and homeland security missions. Proven in theater, the MX-15 has been engineered to meet the needs of new and legacy platforms. Westcam's MX-15 leads the industry with outstanding recognition and identification range performance, the highest level of stabilization.
So Arizona's thinking like, this is wonderful. We can like have these things circling the southern border, and like we can zoom in on the cartel or people trying to slip over the border or whatever it may be, police chases, and zoom in on the cars from far away. Anyway, it sounded like a great plan on paper. That was until the state of Arizona realized how much money it would take to kind of retrofit these planes like they wanted, get them all up to speed on maintenance, and make them dialed in, ready to go for work in Arizona. They budgeted about $1 million a pop to get these things ready to go. And that's, let's see, I think they have 3 planes total. 2 were up for auction, 1 maybe already got sold, or 1 is actually currently being used. But anyway, there were 3 planes that were gonna be $1 million a pop. That's $3 million that has to be budgeted to fix up these old airplanes. And as you would expect, getting an extra $3 million slipped into the budget was a little harder than anticipated, and it didn't happen for years and years and years, until the point came where it just didn't make sense to invest what was now going to be well over $1 million to get the planes sorted out, because now they've been sitting for so long. You have all these extra inspections, you need to go through the engines, maybe you need to replace more parts than you originally needed to do. So they just said, to heck with it, we're not even going to fix them up, we're not going to use them, let's get rid of them. So get this, I couldn't believe this. When I was talking to the director down there, he told me the whole story. So when the new director came on board, he wanted to do something with these planes because they were just sitting there, taking up space, collecting dust. So he told me that he basically put them out there for other government agencies, local state agencies, to take them for free. He said, you know what, we got them for free, we'll give them away for free. So I couldn't believe this. So get this, one of the territories, I think it was either American Samoa or the US Virgin Islands, said, hey, we'll take the King Airs, give them to us, we'll take them, all right? So he said, perfect, here, you can have them. And then they realized what it would take to get the data plates back and to get them into ferryable condition, that they gave up on it. They said, never mind, we don't want them, forget about it, we don't want the planes. So he's literally trying to give away free King Air 350s and nobody will take them. So what do you know, a short time later, he gets another lead. He gets another taker, and this time I believe it's a college in the Midwest somewhere, maybe Nebraska or Oklahoma. One of them say, hey, we will happily take your King Airs. They were either gonna put it into one of the education programs or maybe use it as a transport, something like that. Whatever. He didn't care. Free planes. So once again, when the time came to pick them up from Arizona and transport them back, they realized how much it would cost to ferry them and get them back into perfect running condition, that they said, oh, no way, we don't have that much money for that. Never mind, we don't want the planes. So once again, 2 entities tried to take the planes for free, and then they backed out a short time later. He couldn't give away the planes. And I'm like, duh! So when I heard that, I was like, you're joking, right? Like, you are joking. you couldn't give away King Airs for free? Like, hello, here I am. I wish I found out about you before this auction started to take place. I would have loved King Airs for free. But then again, I'm not a government agency or a school or a organization, so I probably couldn't have had them for free. But how cool would that have been to get those planes for free? So anyway, I just thought it was hilarious that he could not give away these multi-million-dollar planes. So at that point, he was left with no other option than to put these planes up for auction as scrap. Literally, that's why he described them as scrap, because he didn't care anymore. He just wanted them gone and for somebody to take them, and he figured if I put them up for scrap value, somebody would buy them. So when the planes were at $75,000, I asked him, I'm like, is there a big reserve? Like, are they gonna actually accept the bid if it goes for 75 grand? And he goes, oh, heck yeah, like I don't care what they go for. This is already enough. Like, I'm cool with it. Because he's the one approving the bid, I guess. So he said 75 grand is enough. So when I heard that 75 grand was enough for these planes, I was like, okay, I'm gonna win the bid. I'm top bidder at 75,000 bucks. I just checked out the planes. They were in interesting condition, but still I figured, okay, I'm certainly gonna win these planes now that I got the whole backstory. So in the final hours before the auction, I was quickly trying to figure out the value of these planes. And as we know, the biggest factor that plays into value is condition. And the condition of these planes, real quick while we're talking about it, like I said, was interesting. So while these planes were extremely high time, the highest time I've ever seen on King Airs, 25,000 hours, they were maintained quite well. The logs were very extensive. They were by the books. This is the government we're talking about. They have big budgets. They're not gonna send, US military members up in sketchy planes. Of course, if you guys are in the military, especially in military maintenance, then please comment down below to what level do they maintain their vehicles and equipment. I'd be really interested to hear that. But to my understanding, they maintain them to a really high level, especially airplanes. So the maintenance was good on these planes. Everything was pretty on point. The TBO on the engines, they were extended by Pratt & Whitney because I guess they submitted like oil samples and they did a lot of extra inspections in order to extend their life. Kind of like the Moore program, but in this case, it was like their own little program they had going with Pratt & Whitney. So the engine overhaul times were extended to like, I think 5,500 hours, but they did always overhaul the engines on time. And I think there were quite a few hours left on these engines before overhaul was due. So plenty of life still in this airplane. It's not like this airframe has like a total life limited time, like a new Cirrus or something. I think it could, in theory, go on forever as long as everything is still in nice condition. As for the rest of the airframe, of course, the landing gear was looking a little tired. Anything on the exterior was looking a little rough. We're talking Arizona sun, 110 degrees for 6 years straight with no coverage. Of course, that had like a sunshade, but still it's exposed from the sides, the back, the front. They're gonna get toasted pretty good. So the paint was trash. The tires were all flat and dry rotted. The interior was decent though. Every single window had sunshades. I think from when it was flying in the Middle East, they had it completely blacked out in there so that the computer operator had a good view of the screen. So it was like completely dark in there. So that actually played to its benefit to maintain the condition of the interior. The front cockpit area was very nice as well. For having no sunshades up there and sun beating down onto those very expensive avionics units, it was in pretty nice condition overall. It had the Collins Proline 21, which is a really good setup, worth a lot of money. King Air 350 is just a really nice plane overall with the avionics. So being the newer, more valuable King Air 350s compared to all the King Air like 200s I've been looking at, these planes were worth a lot of money still. Like what's the cheapest King Air 350 of this era, early 2000s? 4 million bucks or more currently listed. Of course, they have far fewer hours, but still 4 million bucks for the cheapest one. Okay. So what are these worth with 4 times as many hours, no interior, needing a lot of work? What? Like you see, they're so tricky to value, and the fact that they didn't have data plates, so you would have to go back to Beechcraft and negotiate getting all of like the approvals to fly this plane again legally, the ferry permits, the transport, the storage, the maintenance, the parts availability. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Kind of like the Gulfstream GIII from last video, like the terror started to set in. Like, what if I actually win these things? Payment is due within 48 hours of the auction. How am I supposed to come up with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars within 48 hours and then immediately have the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to completely refurbish them? Yeah, it was terrifying, but I still thought there was money to be made. So I figured, okay, these planes, maybe if you can like clean them up and just turn them into like a cargo plane, like rip out all the interior, sell whatever computers and cameras are left. I have no idea what that expensive $2 million camera is worth. maybe like 100,000 bucks used. So I was figuring, okay, I could sell that for like 100,000 bucks, all the equipment in there, and then I'll be left with like an empty interior that I could turn into like a cargo King Air. So I'm like, okay, a cargo King Air, 25,000 hours, like what's that worth? I figured like, I don't know, $1 million bucks, 1.5 million. That's a lot less than the 4 million they would typically cost. So I'm like, okay, then how much money is it gonna take to get there? Landing gear inspections, all the phases. If they have, I can't keep all these planes straight, but if there's like a 48-month inspection or a 96-month inspection, you know, all those need to be due. These planes basically needed every single inspection for a King Air because they've been sitting for so long. So I figured all of that would cost maybe $400,000 to $700,000 to get done to make these planes airworthy and kind of turnkey ready to go. Comment if you agree with me or if you think I'm out of my mind. So I figured if they would take that much money to get sorted again, then I would want to be in these planes no more than like $500,000. I could be in them maybe under $1 million, completely sorted, and then I could flip them for a little bit of a profit. So I'm like, okay, this is looking good. 1 hour to go, and I'm still basically the high bidder. Maybe I got outbid. Maybe they're like 80,000 bucks at this point, but they're still super cheap. And now I had the whole story of how the state of Arizona got them, why they're selling them, their time in the Middle East, everything I could want to know in a small 2-hour window. So the auction gets down to about 30 minutes remaining, and the planes get bid up to over $100,000 each. Keep in mind, they're separate listings. It's not a lot combo of the two. So they're both at over $100,000 now. I'm like, okay, well, we still got plenty of room. So I bid again, 125, 150 with about 20 minutes remaining, 15 minutes. I think we're at about 200K. And then down to 10 minutes, they're at about $300,000. Down to 5 minutes, probably about $400,000. And now I'm really freaking out. I'm like, okay, this is like getting uncomfortable. I don't know if I should be paying this much for planes that might be a huge disaster, and I should be avoiding them at all costs. So my heart is definitely racing, breathing kind of heavy at this point. And we get down to about probably 3 minutes left in the auction, and the bids shoot to over $500,000 each. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm out. I'm out. I thought they would go for like 200 grand. I thought I would steal these things and have a robbery on my hands, but I'm not gonna shell out more than $500,000 a pop on things with this much risk. So at this point, I am a passenger and I'm just watching the auction. 2 minutes to go, $700,000 each. And by the way, these planes are going up like at the same level. 750, 800 grand with a minute to go. And then what do you know, in the final seconds, they get bid up to over $1 million each. Two guys must have really wanted them because they were just going at it. These two guys, you know, it only takes 2 bidders to send an auction to the moon. Now the auction page disappears when the sale ends, and it was, again, like 6 months ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly. It was either like $1.025 million, or maybe it was over $1 million, I know that, for each plane. They sold for the same exact amount of money. So once again, comment down below. Was that a good deal? Did I miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime? Or did I dodge another bullet by not shelling out over $1 million for ex-government spy planes? I'm pretty sure I made the right decision on this one, and for that kind of money, I can afford a full garage full of crazy supercars instead of one decrepit abandoned airplane. I don't know, I think I did good on this one. I bid up to a certain level that I felt comfortable with, and then anything over that, you gotta separate your emotions in an auction. Have a budget, stick to it, and don't go a penny more. And that's what we did. So we tried our best, but it wasn't meant to be. Soon we will have a King Air. I've actually bid on 4 or 5 of them. I don't think the other ones are worth their own stories. Yeah, one was a really nice B200, and then another one was a E90. Those King Airs are worth a lot less money. You can get like a C90 for like 400,000 bucks. The one that I was looking at, like I said, E90, sold for $275,000. It was used to kill mosquitoes in Florida. I didn't buy it. It probably was a good deal, 275 grand though. And then the 5th one that I bid on, that was a pretty crazy story. It got stolen, flew it down to Venezuela to like run drugs and all sorts of illegal things. It was shot up. There were a bunch of bullet holes in the plane when they found it. And somehow it made its way back to the United States. They fixed the bullet holes. I almost bought that one. It had G1000 in it. It was so nice, but bullet holes stolen by the cartel in Venezuela. Like I didn't want to mess with that, but that was a pretty crazy story. Next up for crazy stories though, this one is actually crazy. I wouldn't mind telling this story. If you guys blow up this video, which I'm sure you're going to do, then I will make a story time, my last story time by the way, at least for now, about how Christian and I nearly bought 2 jets. One of them was a mid-size Hawker jet for only $45,000. and one of them was a Citation S2, the 550 variant, but with the bigger engines, like the crazy single pilot plane, if you guys know what that one is, worth $1 million. It only sold for $100,000, and both these planes sold so cheap because they have crazy stories. They were seized with thousands of pounds of gold bars, machine guns, weapons, grenades, and ammunition. So if you want to hear about those two next, then comment down below and I'll be sure to make that video. Also, not that a whole lot of people stayed to the very end of this video. If you did, I really appreciate that. And as a way of saying thank you, let me tell you about what's coming next video. So we bought something very, very exciting. It's a jet. Wow, it's crazy to say. Yeah, we literally bought a jet, a Citation. That'll be coming next video. I really hope you enjoy the reveal. Our first jet, our first plane that burns Jet A. We got a great deal on it. No, it doesn't have a story of being used by the cartel to move gold bars, but it's a great deal nonetheless. Very clean plane. So you'll be seeing us pick that up in North Carolina tomorrow and flying it back over 1,000 miles here to Arizona. So quite the story, quite the vlog coming to you guys next video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next one.
Say that it feels right.